thanks for everyone coming along tonight. Yes, this is my garage and where I spend a lot of time, where the wife doesn't have to look for me. She just gets on the phone and just looks around at the security cameras and sees someone still here or not. So Josh, Mark, if you're there, we've been spied on. Anyway, I guess I hope this is going to be a little bit unusual from what we originally done in the past. It's a little bit virtual. I hope everyone's staying safe. But like all of us, while we out there being safe, we're also having a little bit of fun to go along with it.
Does everyone still hear this?
Yeah.
Still hear me?
Okay. Just
no worries.
sure.
So, what I probably most of you have probably known, or some of them may not have known, is that I purchased another car. So as you can see, the warehouse is pretty full at the moment. Nana's discussed that we've got about 5 Lotus. But anyway, what I purchased is something a little bit different, a little bit more interesting. Now I have a reason why I purchased it and what we had plans for it. Okay, let's talk about the car itself. The car is a 1997 Elise. As you can see, it is a full-on race car. So it's all book car. It has history of being in races and so forth. So which I'll go through a little bit about it first. Okay, it's a 1997. Can you come forward now? It's a 1997 Lotus Elise. It was purchased around about late 97, early 98, as far as we're aware of, and it was purchased by Bill Pye. If you hadn't been aware, that Bill Pye is a well-known guy in the race game in muscle cars and Porsches. But before he got into that, he was using this Elise. And it was mainly used for production sports cars, racing in Australia, and it's particularly in New South Wales, Bathurst, and so forth like that. So it does come with a bit of history. Give you a little bit of history, how I found it. It was owned by a member of one of our members, and it had been in the garage of this particular member for about 5 years or so in peace. The intention was that when he purchased it, it was going to make it a dedicated track car. He used it a few times and decided that it had a couple of little issues which he rectified, and decided that he was going to refresh the car. Although that sounds great in theory, in practice it just was found that it just sat in pieces. When I said sat in pieces, it had no clam on it. It had all 4 corners pulled out, no drive shafts and various, but they had the engine sitting in the car. So it's a 1997, it's a Rover powered Elise, and it comes with a bit of history with it as well. Okay, before I go on the specs of the car, because the specs is pretty big and large. Firstly, it's a 1997 originally bought by Bill Pye. What I understand, don't correct me if I'm wrong, I could be wrong in all the history of this car, but as much as I know, this is as far as I know about the history of the car. It's purchased by Bill Pye. He used it in a couple of Target events in probably like early 98 and 99. In around about 1999, about in April, if I believe, it was logbooked as a race car, logbooked as a production sports race car. Therefore, he entered he must have entered the actual production sports car that year. In 2000, it was pretty successful, what I can understand, and won the championship. It won the championship in 2000 as production sports cars. So it had history. It was then later sold, and it was actually, if I get this name, it was the person who originally built the car into a race car was Henry Niebrecki, just correct me if I'm wrong, at Hornsby Heights. Apparently, he did a lot of Bill's cars, and he turned this into a race car around about that period. in early '99. Won the championships in 2000, and then later on it was sold to a guy called Wayne Cooper. I don't know the person particularly, but I believe the car was very, very seldom used. Although when it was trying to be sold in 2006, Scott Barguana drove it, and he actually got the lap record for the class, or this particular class, which is B class, in production sports at a 1 minute 14.1 or 0.2, if I remember right. And that was in 2006. So it does, even till today, still holds that record at Oran Park. As we all know, Oran Park is closed, so it's there for prosperity. After that, Brad Douglas bought the car. I'm not sure if people know Brad Douglas, but he was a well-known driver, Lotus member in New South Wales. And he is a particularly good engineer, what I understand. And a lot of these engineering modifications done to this car was done around about that time. I'm not sure how much of it was done, but more so it was done for reliability, because it was used a lot in endurance racing, hence Bathurst 12-hour and so forth. So, as I said, that's a little bit of the history of it. Obviously, after that, obviously Simon Bell bought it, and then obviously I bought it to Simon. Simon again didn't use it a lot. So the intention for this car, my intention for this car is, surprising enough, is to go racing with it. The idea is to get it back together, get it into a running reliable state this year, and they enter the production sports, where there's particularly about 6 of us are going to be entering production sport or in the Sports Thunder series next year, where we are going to go out there and enjoy ourselves in typical terms, and just show, flag the brand out there. So that's a little bit of the history of the car. The intention for myself is to go out and do racing with it, with the blessing of the wife. She's not looking so blessed at the moment, from the other side of the screen. But anyway, she's going to let me go out and do that. And I've got until the end of this year to get it all stitched up, make sure that it's all reliable after its hiatus for several years. But anyway, as you can see, it's in part production. So what I will go through first is the specs of the car. It is a little bit on the modified side. It's not a standard car by no means, and it has a lot of racing engineering in with it. Anyway, starting at the front, we'll just talk about the front. With this, it does have a balanced brake system. So it has got a balanced brake system in it. That's why you got the 3 master cylinders: front, rear, and clutch. You'll probably notice with the actual wheel liners on the side here, it's a little bit different. Yes, they are Kevlar lining or wheel liners, and together it's got with Nitron 2-way shock coilovers as well. The body itself, especially the front, one of the doors, and the rear section, and including the engine bay, is all carbon fibre. So this body itself is carbon fibre, which makes it incredibly light, but like anything, it's expensive if you have to repair it. Hopefully that's not going to be the case. So that's just a quick glance at the front. As we look around to the sides, brake-wise, it's got 4 pots on the front, 4 pots Lotus AP racing pots on the front, and with 296 mil front disc, or aluminium belt disc. So I actually meant to take this off, so I hadn't quite got around. So quickly, let's work that on. So it's been all, I refreshed all this. This is all pulled apart. So I've got all the brakes working. I've got the clutch working. Everything is respective is all good. As you can probably see, there's a small rip here on the top here. You'll see the carbon fibre coming through just through the actual where I repaired it, where there's been a small crack. But as you see, you can see from the car, I'm starting to prepare it for a refresh paint, which we're going to try to refresh it all up and make it look presentable. Mainly, it's not really much damage to it at all. It's more so just a lot of stone chips. As we go to the front, to the driver's seat, or where it all happens, as you probably notice, windows are all polycarbonate. Windows are all polycarbonate. Drivers, passengers, and the rear window, again, to reduce weight. So as you look inside, you got this, you can see it's pretty straightforward. It's got the removable steering wheel. It's got the balance dial there, the big red dial, which is the balance, and it's a pure race car. What I have planned for this, which when I bought the car, comes with a new digital dash, race pack digital dash. You may see some wires down in the footwell of the passenger area. That is the wires that will drive the actual digital dash. So it's been connected to the rear of the ECU at the back of the car, and that'll go. That'll be connected to the dash. So the removal of the original dash, the digital dash in. So it gives me more. It's got GPS. It's got logging. All them kind of features that you need to analyse how you went during the day. The business end of the car. Okay, it is a Rover, and we all know about Rovers. We all know about how vulnerable they can be, and how probably old they are compared to it. But this is a little bit different Rover. You probably guess it's fully forged engine. So it's a fully forged engine. It has roller bearing or roller barrel individual carburetors or throttles on bodies on it. So it's basically the ultimate throttle bodies, as I understand. So it is fairly large. They're rollable. When they open up, they are no restrictions, no butterfly in the way. It just rolls open and allows the full throttle there. So the engine itself was actually ported. It's an MS2 head. If people want to know, it's a minister powered head, which is Ford Canada. It's been ported by them, and I believe the engine also was made by them. So it's forged, counterweighted, and a crank. It's got a steel crank, forged rings, post pistons, and it's got everything. Your cater and roller barrel, and throttle bodies, and it's got the carbon fibre. As you can see, the carbon fibre airbox to it. The difference with this engine is it's been highly modified as well. As you can probably see, just along here, it has two fuel pumps. Obviously, it's a high pressure fuel pump. There's also a lift pump in the actual tank itself. I've just fitted a new Pro alloy tank, which increases the capacity up to 48 litres per litres. Unfortunately, the actual pump that was originally in there, because it's been sitting around a while, it's failed on us, and we're waiting for a new pump before we can actually fire the car up, which is a bit of a damn shame because we couldn't actually fire it up to the show tonight. But anyway, I'm still waiting for that new pump, and hopefully that's going to arrive in the next day or two. Okay, he says obviously that's got a very large catch can there. That is just for the oil catch can, and it's plumbed back into the sump. So any oil that is caught in there will drain back into the sump. Thus, you don't have to regularly empty this, or do you have to worry about running out of oil should this fill up or take a lot of the oil from the engine. Down there, I'm not sure if you can probably see, but down here, it's a little bit unique. Down this area here, there is a Lavnova transmission cooler, which is also plumbed into the transmission, and it's also it actually has its own pumps. So when you turn the car on, the pump the transmission through that cooler. Not only does it allow the water, the oil to heat up quicker, it also maintains the temperature in the gearbox, which we'll talk about a bit later. This here, just for, it's a little bit unusual. Again, this is a very large oil, a separate oil filter, which is an external oil filter, which was originally done by Simon and then by Anthony at TPS. It was located at the back of the car, but obviously once we fitted a new exhaust, it couldn't live there, so we have relocated it onto the side there. So it's fairly easy access to actually service the car, should it need be. Okay, as we move around the back, okay, we'll just talk a little bit more. He says at the back here, there's it's a fuel swirl pot there, and it's got a separate filter. So this filter is filtered straight from the actual fuel tank prior to going into the swirl pot, and then that's where the high pressure pump picks up the actual pressure. The new exhaust, we have a new exhaust on it, which is a tubular exhaust with a, now just correct me if I'm wrong, I better get the right kind of headers. We just put some new headers on it, which is a 4-in-2-in-1 headers. We're just trying to see what that is. Okay, I'm just trying to read through everything here. Anyway, it's a big ball one. It's a 2-in-4, so we just placed that on with an exhaust, because the original exhaust where the car come with was extremely loud, too loud to the point that it was gonna trip every decibel meter in the 5 kilometres in the radius of the track, including the track one. So it was going to be ping for noise for all the time. So we've actually made some changes to put the new exhaust on to make it a little bit quieter, which again come with Simon, from Simon when we first purchased the car. It's got a separate ignition system. It's a Pro 14 ignition system, which basically means that it gives a better spark, a much more reliable spark for long term. So it means more power and so forth like that. And I didn't mention around the rear brakes as such. It is the 2 pots rear. It's got fitted to the rear, but it has a standard disc on there. You probably won't see there. Just there, it's a 4-pot brakes with your standard disc on it. So majority, as we all know, the majority of the braking of the car is done from the front, or from the front brakes. The rear is more so to stabilise the car, and in the case you tend to use more rear brake when it's wet. So with it, it's powered by an Ultronic ECU, which is more or less a spin-off or a partner breakup affair from Motec. So it has very reliable and high credentials as an ECU, and it's highly recommended if you have one on your car, leave it there, because it is considered as a premium ECU. As part of the engineering that Brad done, is they've done this electronic where you used to have dizzy caps on the old engines. Now it's got all electronically, so it picks up its timing or its cam timing electronically. So there's no need for dizzy caps or anything like that, or like the original motors had. Here is obviously two water tanks, which they have for the actual coolant, and followed by a reservoir. So it does have that. The gearbox itself is a Quaife straight cut gearbox. Obviously a straight cut is going to give you a much more reliability to handle the extra power that the engine may produce. And as you see behind you, that is the rear clam. And it's pretty obviously, you can see that it's a full carbon fibre rear clam. It's obviously painted from the outside because as race cars, they tend to acquire scratches at times of time. So therefore it's much easier to fix up paint than it is to fix up carbon fibre. So that's the car itself. So I'll show you a little bit, some of the unique, if we can, show some of the unique things underneath. Where Brad, I assume it's either Brad or Henry, done some engineering, which weren't available at the time, but obviously these days they are available. They have additional bracing and such. So we'll have a quickly look like that. Okay, just quickly, as you can probably see, it's a new brace on it. Obviously, we had to change the brace for the rear here because we had clearance issues with the new exhaust. You can see there's a new exhaust, 4-in-1, beautiful exhaust into a tubular silencer as such. So we had to do a few changes, modifications to actually make sure that we had an additional clearance to actually get in there. Okay, probably the interesting part about this, it is a bit of a mixture of motorsport, because what I understand that Bill Pye in the early days of when the lease come in, they were the distributors of Lotus Motorsport products. And they did, and a lot of the bits and pieces were on this car were from that era. It did originally come with dynamic shock absorbers or coilovers. These were the Lotus choice by Lotus at the time of around about the late 90s. Probably the best thing to look at this, probably if anyone can appreciate the amount of engineering involved. As I said, this gearbox itself is a quaif, full quaif, close ratio, straight cut gearbox. So it has particularly should be good. You can see the fittings there. You've got the fittings there for the actual oil cooler transmission and the actual pumps fitted up inside the actual chassis rail. All the actual gear cables, motorsport gear cables, therefore they're going to be more reliable and such. The gear, you probably notice probably mounting the gearbox, mounting and the engine mounting, very robust. Again, they're much motorsport. Along here is a little bit unusual. This is a brace that somebody's either engineered, either by Brad or from Henry from the early piece, where it's actually engineered. You'll see these additional braces at the actual pickup points. Probably the other things to notice was if all the wishbones, now you have to have a really close look here, is that they have additional gussets on all the pickup points. Every wishbone has additional gussets as well. And I guess the reason is behind that is to give it more reliability, more robust. So in the case, if they do take a hit, they could probably take a little bit, they'll be more robust against it. Again, the oil cooler up here is a Mocal or a Lavanova Nova oil cooler, fairly large one for obvious reasons because it's set up for racing. Drive shafts are all motorsport drive shafts, so they're a little bit different in the set, including all the actual uprights. The rear uprights are steel uprights, motorsport steel. Actually, the front ones are aluminium. So again, I've been spending a little bit of time cleaning everything, putting it all back together, inspecting it. There's been a few little hiccups on the way, as you would expect when a car's been sitting around for a while. In particular, the fuel pump and the actual pedal box, they all were corroded due to lack of use. Okay, so probably the biggest question, I know that I'm going to have to probably answer the question. Everyone's going to ask, how much power does it make? Okay. I can only go from what when the last time it was dynoed, and it was dynoed not long before, and very shortly before it was actually start to pull apart, when Simon pulled apart for root to actually refresh the engine or refresh the whole car. That was around about just shy of 200 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we're talking about only this weight-wise of this car is only 680 kilo, which gives it a fairly good power to weight ratio. So it does have a reasonably good power to weight ratio. 200 horsepower out of a Rover is extremely good. I don't think, I think it, you know, according to Brad, when he wrote a thing there, you know, he would probably state this as this is Brad, the previous owner, he would have stated this car as possibly possibly the quickest Rover car still out there at the moment. Whether it is or whether it's not, it's yet to be seen. Hopefully that we will find out in the near future once we get over this virus issue or COVID-19, so that we can get out there on the track and trial it. Hopefully by the time we are to get over it, I'm able to get the car back up and running again. So that's my project, and that's what I've been doing for the last 2 to 3 weeks, or probably 4 weeks. I've had it since I've had the car, and I've made pretty good progress. A couple of steps back, a couple of steps forward. That's the way it goes. But I'm happy with the progress, and at this stage I plan to hopefully have the engine running within a couple of days, and then we can go full steam on fixing up the body, and obviously fitting the digital dash and all the race pack dash into it, which will give it another lease of life. And hopefully we all look forward to getting out there with Josh Robbins, Mark Henderson, Hayden Morale, and Andrew Richmond and Timmy Schreiber out there in Thunder Sports. Be nice to each other, I bet. Maybe not Josh, but anyway, that's just the way it is. So, any questions, I guess?
Okay, so thank you, David and Nana, because that's fantastic. Great that you're so well prepared and got everything there organised really well.